The military has now confirmed an attack on its troops by the indigenous people of Biafra and its armed wing, the Eastern Security Network, in Abia State on Thursday, killing 5 personnel. Welcome to the program, everyone. We continue to review President Tinubu's first year in office, and our attention on the show today is turned to security. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Let's bring you news just in. Organized labor has declared an indefinite nationwide strike to begin from Monday, 3rd of June, over the failure of the federal government to conclude negotiations on a new national minimum wage and reverse the hike in the electricity tariff. President of the TUC, Festus Osifo, announced the strike at the joint news conference with the leadership of the NLC in Abuja today. According to the labor leaders, the decision follows the expiration of an earlier request of the federal government to conclude all negotiations for a new minimum wage before the end of May. The organized labor had once pulled out of the negotiation, rejecting 2 federal government offers, the latest being 60,000 naira. We're following that story very closely, and we'll bring you some more updates at the top of the hour. Let's return to developments in Abia. According to the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, the attack took place at Abia Junction checkpoint in Obingwa local government area, adjoining Abia metropolis, where troops were deployed to enforce peace in the area as well as protect the citizens. They said the terrorists who attacked.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news. At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news. At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
The Biafran War between 1967 and 1970 and beyond, and even until now. Correspondent Enena Gabriel has details in this report.
Look at it now. Look at soldiers running. This is what is happening live now. Abia Junction.
This video, as sourced from the internet, showed that the gunmen dressed in black shirts and trousers with hoods to shield their faces attacked the army outpost at about 10 a.m. today. A resident of the area told TVC News that residents of Omola, Ukebu, and Obikabi are now live in fear following the incident. According to the source, many have started leaving their houses for fear of any reprisal by the soldiers. Aba and Umuahia, the state capital, were without their usual hustling and bustling in the 2 busy cities in the state. Banks, offices, markets were closed in adherence to the sit-at-home order of the indigenous people of Biafra. At the time of filing this report, police helicopter and military aircraft were sighted hovering around the city of Aba following the ugly incident. However, the Nigerian Army 14 Brigade headquarters are yet to issue official statement over the attack on their men in Aba. Nina Gabriel, TVC News, Aba, Abia State.
Governor Alex Otti met with security agencies in Abia State, where he resolved to continue to engage with relevant stakeholders and community leaders to ensure security in the state. The expanded meeting, which was attended by members of the Security Advisory Council for the first time, condemned the killing of the 2 soldiers in Aba by unknown gunmen. Special Advisor to Governor Otti on Security, Mark Donald Uba, says the governor will soon release a statement on the attack. By the way, the statement is out, and it's leading with the big story here that says Abia State government places a 25 million naira bounty on perpetrators. We'll bring you details of what the state government is saying subsequently. Meanwhile, the army has promised to deal with the killers of its personnel in Abia State. In a press statement, Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, says troops deployed at Abia Junction checkpoint in Obingwa local government areas adjoining Abia metropolis in Abia State were attacked and sadly killed by terrorists of IPOB ESN, the troops deployed to enforce peace in the area and protect the citizens, were mass attacked by the terrorists, which took the lives of 5 personnel. It says the armed forces mourn the death of these troops, as each and every soldier lost in battle is a terrible loss. It also says that investigation is ongoing concerning the attack. Joining me now is security expert and CEO PR24 Nigeria, Onyekachi Adekoya. He joins me live from Abuja. Mr. Adekoya, a stay-at-home order called yesterday by IPOB to celebrate Biafra War and an attack on troops of the Nigerian army afterwards. What do you make of this development?
Yeah, thank you, Nifemi, for having me, and good evening to the viewers. Sadly, it's a known MO of the attackers to instill fear, reinforce their messaging, and leverage the publicity this type of ugly incident will create to further instill fear and reinforce their position in society. It's a sad day for me to speak again on the loss of lives of members of the Nigerian armed forces. Our heart goes out to the families who have lost a loved one. We pray for the repose of their souls, and again, extend our courtesies to the President Commander-in-Chief, who I'm sure is saddened by this incident.
Some governors prior to this time claim they've been able to stop the sit-at-home orders on Mondays. But is this saying this issue still exists, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not?
Yes, it's a societal problem. Remembering the lead up to the set date for the sit-at-home, social media had become awash with propaganda tools and posts trying to whip up sentiments again and open wounds that we are trying to seal in this country to remind the people of the East of the horrors of the Civil War. If you look at the press statement from the Abia state government about the sit-at-home, ab initio, they had conceded that people have a right to remember and to express grief and to respectfully mourn those that are lost. So it's a societal problem that is entrenched. My own worry is that this is a problem that is going on for too long, and the problem is ingrained within the fabric of society and within the psyche of the people, who, of course, my mother is from the East. We lost people in that war also, but it's difficult for some people to move beyond that point, which is creating the occasion for these actors who act out of their own interest, economic in this instance, not socio-political or cultural in any case, but armed criminal groups creating a state of insecurity and unrest in some parts of the East. Now, I will concede that there's been some significant improvement. The influence of the group has been waning. There is now some movement on the sit-at-home days, but out of an abundance of caution, people still sit at home, not because the group is increasing in strength or popularity or endorsement, but just because the government, as its way, has not been able to fully dominate the area, dominate the space, and give people that sense of reassurance. So I think once the people can sense that the space is fully dominated by government security forces, this sit-at-home thing would be a thing of the past. It's already a thing of the past in about 60 to 65% of most city capitals in the East. It's just the other places and spaces where this type of crimes of opportunity can occur, the areas where people still worry about this unknown gunmen.
54 years after the war ended, we're still having this conversation, especially the fact that Thursday, according to this group, is supposed to be an observance for them of some sort. What do you think we perhaps aren't doing right, such that the memories of this dark side of our history still haunts us decades after?
Very good question, Nifemi. This also came up in conversation where with the immediate past CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Lucky Rabo, at a round table of private security professionals. The real problem is you look at this the old national anthem that is now being passed into law, the language and messaging in that anthem and the appropriateness for a country like us. Every country has had its own dark history. The US has had its own, Ireland and the UK they have their own, South Africa. You can name the country that you want that has had one issue or the other. But I think what we're doing poorly is in the area of national orientation. And I do hope that this administration, I can see them making some efforts. We must commend the president, although it's questionable a bit to begin to relearn the national anthem. But the messaging is right. And at the heart of the approach is a reorientation. It first requires an all-of-society approach, but government must provide the leadership. So what is missing is a new reorientation. And maybe reintroduce back the history of our past and draw lessons rather than, you just blank out the history, and the narrative and initiative is left at the hands or at the mercies of actors who don't have the interests of this country at heart. So I think that we must reintroduce back our history, but this time re-own the narrative. We can talk about look at the confab. What is the essence of the confab? For people to heal openly, talk about the issues, embrace the new realities that we're in, embrace forgiveness, and then we go forward. So I think the problem is with political messaging, reorientation, and the fact that within our political construct, we play too much centrifugal politics. So the people who exploit the gaps to leverage political benefits are the real problem. So government is a bit behind the 8 ball in terms of dominating that space.
Mr. Adekoya, hopefully the new national anthem can do the magic, but there are some who have said we have to do a lot more than that. And we'll be talking about that shortly after this break. Stay with us, everyone.
Do solemnly swear.
Thanks for staying with us, everyone. Onyekachi Adekoya is a security expert and CEO, PR24 Nigeria. He joins me to discuss security situation in Abia State vis-a-vis what security has been like in the past year under President Bola Tinubu. Thank you for staying the course on the program, Mr. Adekoya. Let's talk about civil-military relations. It suffered a major setback in Delta State. We saw that resulting in the death of servicemen. A similar situation played out at the Benex Plaza in Abuja, although no life was lost. But what do you think we can do to bolster the confidence of the citizenry in the armed forces, especially now in the Southeast?
You've layered so many things in the question. You've looked at the case of Banex, which is almost like a repeat incident, against the issue in Delta, which issues are still being investigated and are not very clear, with the ongoing subtle insurgency in the Southeast, tending towards a secessionist movement that is now taking up a different dimension. In terms of what the military can do differently, I do believe that the military has to take a step back. And thankfully, we've been saying this for the last 6 years. I've been a great proponent of state police, and I've made not hidden the fact that this is where we should be going to. The problem we have in Nigeria is that the army and the flag they represent, which we should rally around, is now the source of division amongst the people. When you pitch the people, a system pitches the people against their army. You can look at the statement of the Nigerian army saying that without the people, an insurgency, an embedded insurgency would not thrive. When you have an occupationist mentality. When the people see the army as an occupying force against their interests, then they are bound to rise against that occupying force. The issue with the Southeast is very touchy. Yes, we must deal precisely with the source of the threat to society. What is required is good policing. Like you have the FBI, you have the counter-terrorism unit in Nigeria, which is better suited. We need to resource that arm, counter-terrorism arm of the Nigerian police force, provide them with the suppressive firepower that they need. When you layer good policing work with a tactical force that is able to go in and conduct very high-level surgical operations, sometimes provided with closer support by the Nigerian Air Force. The police is better suited for a counter-terrorism operation. When you have an insurgency, and I'm afraid that we're beginning to deal with the issue of the ESN IPOB as an insurgency, not a criminal group, we may create more problems for ourselves than we intend to solve. So I think that there's a misnomer in the approach. What we need to do differently is to introduce the TSS and the counterterrorism unit of the police force with the IGP RIT team to create a crack team that are able to go in, embed within the people, and fish out surgically.
Indeed, Mr. Adekoya, the group already has been proscribed as a terrorist group, right? I think that gave some form of legitimacy for the Nigerian army to act in the Southeast. Do you agree with that?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. There's a reason why we have the Counterterrorism Center. There's a reason why we have a counterterrorism police formation. There's a reason why we have the DSS. There's a reason why we have the NIA. So I'll break it down. This is within the remit of the DSS, really, truly and really. It's an intelligence-led surgical task operation. That should be the kind of mindset we have here. The military is trained to search, kill, and destroy. Fighting in an urban environment is difficult. If you look at the video being played out, the military spreads itself out too thin without the cover of a well-policed society. So you have what looks like a forward operating outpost forming different configurations within the city. What the people simply did is that they are on ground, they know the positions, they can range the response time to each of the position, and they know how to attack a post with overwhelming force. We have seen this MO when the military had forward operating base in the northeast, in the theater. What we saw was surgically, the terrorists went from point to point with overwhelming force. You have a post where you have 5 men with, worst case, how many magazines, 5 AK-47, attacked by a swarm of 20, 15 people who are trained, dangerously trained. Those 5 people stand no chance whatsoever.
All right.
So as long as we don't have a source of protection, because listen, even the military requires security. The security the society gets is first from the police. So when you have a quasi-failed police system, the military is ripe for the picking.
I hear you.
That's why you find that even military barracks. Yes, go ahead.
I hear you clearly, Mr. Adekoya. I just want us to quickly explore some other political alternatives that some people have suggested. For instance, more calls have continued to come in for the
affecting Nigeria's amazing biodiversity.